Hi everyone, thank you all for watching. I created this video to hopefully help you as parents better understand the EOG and your child's EOG test scores. The EOG can be intimidating for both students and parents, so it's my hope that after watching this video you will have a better understanding about what the EOG measures and how to interpret your child's test results. Before we begin learning more about the EOG, I want to take a brief moment to emphasize that the EOG is not the only way to determine whether or not your child is successful in school. Please remember that these are the results of one test. In order to have a more well-rounded understanding of how well your child is doing, I suggest meeting with your child's teacher. I want to start off by talking about what exactly the EOG is. It is an end-of-grade test that is given to students in grades 3 through 8. When you get your child's test results back, the information on how they scored in reading comprehension will be on the left side of the page, and the information on their math scores will be on the right side of the sheet. Next, I want to take a moment to discuss some of the terms used to talk about EOG test scores. The first term is raw score. This refers to the number of questions your child answered correctly. The raw score is then converted into a scale score. The scale score shows you growth in reading and math from year to year. You can compare your child's scale score from last year to the current year to determine growth. Achievement level shows you the level your child performed on the test. There are 4 achievement levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are represented by Roman numerals on your child's score sheet. Finally, there is percentile. If your child is in the 80th percentile, for example, then that means that your child scored as well or better than 80% of the students who took the test. Percentiles can range from 1 to 99. Now I want to talk about some of the symbols that are used on the report. On a chart, you will see a rectangle with a closed diamond. The rectangle shows you where your child's test score would likely be 2/3 of the time. This accounts for variation in test scores if the test was given on a different day or if your child took a slight variation in the test. Below your child's score will be 3 other scores. These scores are represented by a horizontal line and an opened diamond. The 3 other scores show you the average scores for the school system, and the state. This allows you to see where your child's score falls in relation to these 3 other scores. Next, you will see Lexile scores. Lexile scores are linked to the Lexile framework for reading. It measures reader ability and text difficulty on the same scale. You can use Lexile scores to match your child to the level of books. Now let's talk a little bit more about the reading comprehension part of the EOG. There are 52 test items. Some of the items on the reading comprehension portion of the test will be field test items. This means that these questions do not count for or against your child's score. Your child will read literary and informational selections. For example, your child might read fiction, nonfiction, poetry, or they might read about content and consumer. The next section of the EOG is mathematics. It tests on number and operations, measurement, geometry, data analysis and probability, and algebra. There are 82 test items. And remember, some of them may also be field test items, which means that these questions don't count towards or against your child's test score. There are 2 parts on the math exam, a calculator active part and a calculator inactive part. The calculator active part is 66% of the test, or 54 questions. The calculator inactive portion is 34% of the mathematics test, or 28 questions. Here is an example of a sample score sheet. If you see right here, the reading scale score for this particular student was 356. They scored an achievement level of 4, And they're in the 93rd percentile, which means they scored as well or better than 93% of the students who took this test. Down below is the chart that shows you where your child falls in relation to these three other sections. So the closed diamond represents where your child's test score is. Remember, this child is a 356, so it falls about right here. This rectangle shows you where your child might score 2/3 of the time. Below is the average for the school, the average for the system, and the average for the state. On the right is the mathematics portion. The student also scored a 356 on the math. They're in the achievement level of 4, and they're in the 90th percentile. The closed diamond represents the score of 356. Below is the average score for the school, the system, and the state. So you can see by the child's test scores that they scored better than the school, the system, and the state in both reading and mathematics. Down below on the sample sheet shows you the child's Lexile score. The child scored a 965, and down below is the end of grade reading subscale performance. The subscale performance shows the subscale score for the goals and/or sections scored for the EOG tests of reading and math. The state average in subscale performance is a 10, and this shows that the child scored between a 15 and 20 on literary reading and between a 10 and 15 on informational reading. Next is the subscale performance for math. Again, the average performance for the state is 10, and the child scored in between a 10 and 15 for these sections in math. Next, I created 2 slides to help you. By now, you're probably thinking you either want to help your child maintain his or her EOG scores or improve them. So this slide is to help you at home for improving or maintaining reading test scores. It's important to schedule time to read every day. Make this part of your child's daily routine. Also, have a variety of texts at home to read. For example, you could have magazines, newspapers, chapter books, informational books. Give your child a variety of genres to read. Also, remember that you are a role model. So if your child sees you reading at home, they'll probably be more likely to read as well. And finally, discuss books with your child. If you know your child is reading The Magic's Treehouse, for example, ask your child about the book. Ask open-ended questions to help your child think at a higher level. And also for the mathematics section, try to do real-life examples. So, for example, if you are baking a certain recipe that needs to be doubled, have your child help you if you need to double half a cup of flour or 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. Make these into math problems. And finally, do math together. Make math fun and help your child see that math is something they will see every day. So that's the end of my presentation, and I hope that after watching this, you feel more confident about the EOG and you can help your child be even more successful.